Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm feeling a bit Bob Ross tonight. Hang on a sec. Let me get in clear. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Friday night's Boys from the Baltic Star. We've got the after hours signs up tonight, so grab yourself a drink, sidle into a comfortable booth that looks just as comfortable as Ben's Twin Peaks Dream Hell, and enjoy our evening. For tonight is no ordinary evening. If you don't already, please consider following us on Twitter at BoysBaltic. If you watch and appreciate what you're watching, please watch. I was doing so well. Please consider following us on this. This is Twitch, on Twitch as well. And bring your love and affection through it. I'm going to start singing Robbie Williams if we don't carry on. There's some points in the corner. If you've got some points, click on the little Imperial credit. Unichronic. You make it sound so dirty though, Unichronic. Click on the Imperial credit in the corner, and maybe spend a credit or two. We've got a semi-selection tonight because it's not a full event and Ewan's not here. It'd be unfair to hit some Ewan things, but there's some of our all-time favourites in there, so please feel free. Otherwise, sit back, relax. You may have noticed that I'm already back on the alcohol tonight after a month off, and let's just enjoy a wonderful evening together in the company, sitting at the feet of, nay, in fact, our GM, the finest man in the room. It's Ben. Good evening, Ben. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Yes, doing quite well. And as you've alluded to, tonight is a bit of a different thing. Normally on a Friday, we would actually be playing an episode of our ongoing Traveller campaign, but we can't do that this time because there are only two of us, and it requires three of us to do that because half of our PCs are played by someone who isn't here. So this is actually inspired by comments from a couple of people that our back catalogue is now getting long enough that it's becoming a certain amount of effort to sort of catch up. So what we're going to do tonight is take a brief saunter through the story so far of the Boys from the Baltic Star, and a very brief introduction to what happened before we started streaming, and then I'm going to take you sort of through each episode one by one. Now this is deliberate, so if you've decided, for example, that you want to catch up on stuff from the long ago, but you'd like to watch the last couple of episodes fresh before jumping in, then that's absolutely fine. What I'm going to do then is put up on the screen the actual name of the episode that we're talking about.
Whoa! Steady on here, Mr. High Tech.
The number, I should say, because the name actually might be a bit of a giveaway because of the way we've named things, but the number of the episode. So you can actually track as we're going through episode by episode. Now, if you've been a long-time viewer, you will actually recognize almost everything I'm going to say while I do this, because most of them will have been largely the episode intro for the following episode, if that makes any sense. So, in essence, when at the beginning of episode 2, I summarized what happened in episode 1, that summary will now be done over as the episode 1 description. Okay? So I hope that all makes sense, and I hope it will be fairly straightforward. Luke is here in order to add in his own interjections, of course, and remind me of things that I've forgotten that were weird or silly or funny or embarrassing that clearly I've blacked out of my memory for all sorts of reasons.
This sounds like something I could do. Also, I've got when we're done, if you want, I've got all the screens for the episodes, which when you say, I can pop them up if you want. To like when so the title, because you're avoiding the title, but I can pop it up if you want when you've talked about it.
Okay, but yes, but then you see, if somebody wanted to stay with
Oh,
us,
oh, it's a good
what they
point.
could do
It's a good
is when
point.
they get to say episode 21,
It's a good point.
they could mute us and wait until the screen said something other than
Ah,
episode
that's
21,
good. That's a
if
good
you see what
theory.
I mean.
That's a good theory. I'm a little bit. It's because I've got my my evening voice on. So this is my Thursday night after hours voice, Fiddles. This is not my Friday role playing voice or my booming jamming voice. This is my sensual voice that only Ben normally hears. Except my evening voice.
Yes,
Exactly.
the one he reserves for his most intimate friends.
Exactly. Which you all are this evening. Welcome, intimate
Hmm,
friends.
welcome indeed. So, without further ado, let's begin with loosely what happened before the stream. This is going to be a very brisk overview. We actually did some time ago an episode that covered this in more detail, but I think it's probably worth making sure that we've covered it just fairly briefly. So, so let's just quickly cover how they all got together and why they ended up doing what they're doing. So, before the stream, our travellers assembled on Dillabrew at the retirement party of Agnar Arnson. And while there, they went hunting moamps, large reptilian predators. They met a young and excitable biologist called Palia, who joined them on the hunt because she wanted to see the animals close up. Mission accomplished. So, after delivering her remains to another biologist, Rick Verlo, they became interested in joining the expedition of the Baltic Star, which he was already attached to. The ship was setting off to do a series of scientific surveys, funded by a university academic program. And for a while, the expeditions went well, but it wasn't a long while. Um, the scientists were getting some interesting samples, but only a couple of stops into the expedition, word reached them that the funding for the expedition had mysteriously been cut off. Undeterred, our travellers decided to continue on the ship and begin looking for passengers to make use of the Baltic Star's liner facilities, to run it as a going concern and keep travelling across the galaxy. Now, on their very first commercial passage, they encountered a Zodani woman called Zoe Hathaway, who worked for a company called Great Rift Transport, and a seemingly unconnected Zodani called Anton Fess, who wanted help with some geological samples. Sammy Cress, their tame geologist, carried out the work, but something was definitely unsettling about Fess, and the travellers decided to flee the system early, but taking Zoe with them as a paying passenger. Zoe seemed to recognise Fess, and she did not appear to be a fan.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Whoa, 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 whoa. Slow down there. Slow down there, smarty pants. Fast! Fast! Fast!
Quite right.
It had to be done. It was redeemed after all. It's official.
Arriving in orbit around Kigarisa, Zoe changed her plans on learning of a missing ship, also owned by her company. She wanted to go into an uncharted world called DKB-1 Alpha, the last known destination of a rift hauler craft. And the travellers decided to join her and found themselves in a horrifying fight for survival against a disease, you might say, that could turn the dead into zombies. They also found a series of mysterious carvings on the wall of a cliff, and these seemed to make a few of the crew feel very uncomfortable. The travellers were able to rescue the survivors and return to Kigarisa, where they took a small detour onto the surface of the world, despite it being illegal to do so. Still, they were only going to take a look around, not cause any trouble. After overthrowing two of the three governments on Kigarisa and losing the glorious Greyhill Bast in the process, they returned to orbit and met a representative of the Deep Night Corporation, Sarah Lim. Lim requested they visit the corporate HQ on Geeka to discuss a possible future venture. Geeka, however, was too far away to make in a single jump. On their way to Geeka, the travellers stopped at the tiny world of Osin to refuel and gather some advanced supplies. Osin turned out to be a world ringed by a vast breaking yard for old starships, and with its only city, made made of ship hulls landed on the surface. Quite right, up the geeks.
Fiddles has got too many points. We've got to put the prices up. She's loaded. Carry on.
They okay. They found a new crew member, did some shopping, cleared out a mine shaft of alien oxivores, and interfered in a financial transaction involving a large amount of money. They later learned that the money was a payment from the Riftsman's Guild on Osin to a group of mercenaries called Black Sun. The guild seemed to believe that Black Sun had its money, but the mercenaries, for their part, they thought the travellers had stolen it for some reason. And Black Sun launched an unsuccessful attack on the travellers in some of the dark passageways of the city of Fredericksburg. The travellers asked for help from a friendly employee of the guild called Sever, and he called in some favours. He revealed it was likely Black Sun had taken over a disused refinery in orbit around the planet and agreed to join the travellers in their attempt to explore the facility. Now, that is essentially what happened before we started streaming.
That was. I remember more shopping.
There was a lot of shopping.
You missed out all the good bits. You just did the boring, like, storyline bits. This is why we never let you do the summaries.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
You did say what I was wearing. It's like you don't care, quite frankly.
That is the problem, isn't it? Yeah, it's almost as if that doesn't seem as important in the grand scheme of a campaign. I don't know why.
I changed my top for you. I put on aftershave for you, and you never notice, Ben. You never notice.
It's true. I'm oblivious about things like that.
Quite frankly, well, I don't know. You're losing me, Ben. You're losing me.
Okay. So, episode 1 was on Osin. And on Osin, the travellers had attracted this unwelcome, not to say violent attention from Black Sun, the mercenary group. And they'd made contact with Sever, who works for the Riftsman's Guild, and who joined Agnar and Soraya in an assault on a facility that had been borrowed, shall we say, by Black Sun in orbit. And the attack went well, but the leader of the mercenary group escaped, and Sever seemed to recognise him, but wasn't keen on explaining how they knew each other. And his name was Falco, as Sever screamed at the top of his lungs.
Falco.
On returning to the Osin downport, they met a woman who identified herself as Officer Pramus and wanted the travellers to gather information for her at their next stop, which was the system of Geeka. And they agreed, and without further ado, she left them standing in an observation room at the downport, and that's where we ended episode 1. Actually, I think was quite fun, if I remember.
Episode 1, I got really, really drunk. Because it was our first stream, and I was really... We'd been planning a couple of weeks before. We'd decided it a few weeks before, hadn't we? We're gonna think about doing this. We just want to share it with people. We sort of worked out. There was another person at the time, and we sort of worked out how OBS was going to work and how Twitch was. And I had an old Twitch that I never used that we sort of swapped it around. Everything was being swapped, and there was such a build up to getting it right and good. And I'd done the graphics. You'd sort of. I feel like you'd taken more stress over being more worried about the timings because it's going to be 2 hours and that's it.
Yeah.
And then when it happened and we got halfway through, I just started drinking very, very freely. I just started calling him the Le Grand Fromage about every 3 minutes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Falco's good though. I liked Falco, and I just said in the text, Falco's one of the biggest of 1 to 25. He's like in a TV series that has, like if you have a TV series that runs like 10 series or something, and you have big bads, but then you also have like a couple of bads of a series or something. Falco felt like the baddie up until the winter break. It felt like the perfect cycle, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He sort of, his name was there. We ran into him. He was very powerful the first time.
Mm.
We didn't get anywhere close damaging him. He was gone, and he was left as someone to sort of like a whisper in the wind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So, episode 2. After the raid on this hiding place of the Black Sun Mercenary Company, the travellers returned to the surface with their ally Sever, and he asked to join them on the next leg of their journey to Geeka, but was still unwilling to tell them how he knew Falco, the escaped Black Sun operative. And later, the travellers were asked to meet with the governor of Osin, Papa Krebs. In his office, Krebs revealed that they had become embroiled in more than one thing he deeply cared about, some harming his interests, others helping him. He wanted one piece of information from them: the exact amount the Riftsmen's Guild was paying each month to operate the Moho mine near the city. The travellers carefully avoided passing this information over, or even confirming they knew it, and eventually Krebs decided he needed to break the stalemate. He called in his assistant to say, "Send him in." And a moment later, Sever walked in as if he owned the place. He looked at the travellers and said, "I hoped it wouldn't come to this." I still smile when I remember that episode ending, actually.
He broke my heart. This was the night. It's only episode 2, but still, of every single week leading up to the next episode, this was the one where Ewan and I had the most conversations during the week.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's part of the stream thing because you're sort of setting up for an episode, I guess. So you're almost prepping beforehand because we can't, when we do our 7-hour specials, there'd be bits where you go for a smoke break or something, or someone go to the loo or someone get a drink, and we would have a 10-minute chat as a little group or something, as you would in a roleplay night. But when you're streaming and we're trying to not have too much downtime, I guess, we want everything to be quite fluid, I suppose. So me and Ewan do discuss a little bit beforehand. We don't want to break the magic of TV, but we're not scripted at least. But that after that zinger you hit us, we were thrown sideways. Our little buddy Sever is working with the guy we hate, and I remember sat in the bathroom for about 40 minutes one morning with you, and not, he wasn't with me, thank goodness, he was on the phone, on text, coming up with all our priorities. Right, who do we prioritize? Who do we respect the most? Who do we respect the least? What are we trying to do? What does this mean? What's our next plan? What on earth is going on? Our whole life has been blown into smithereens. It was a very, very good swerve. Very, very good.
Well, as long as it was a good one.
Oh, it was good.
Okay, so episode 3. And on Osin, the travellers had seemingly dealt with this threat posed by Black Sun, but still knew nothing about the mysterious Falco, who led the mercenaries in the system. And they met with Papa Krebs, the local governor, and made a general agreement with him for future cooperation in exchange for his help with some warehouse space. They were invited to the annual speech he gives the following evening. And then they made a trip to purchase 2 kilograms of potassium cyanide, though they hadn't collected it at this point. Agnar and Soraya made a trip to the carrier Italia in orbit around the planet in order to meet with Officer Pramus for a rather vague discussion before racing to a meeting in Fredericksburg with the legendary Stanley Strife, the leader of the Riftsmen's Guild. They were led into a waiting room, and it was actually there that we broke episode 3.
This was a very shopping-y episode because of that. But it was that because it was the first little nuggets of Ewan and I what we were trying to work out, and we were looking at, oh, there's a poisoning involved. Ewan and I politically are never that far away from a revolution, quite frankly. And so, if there's a chance to get some poison around, we're in for it. So it's
Yeah.
in a way it's a slow-moving episode, but I think there's a lot into. I think there's a lot in it. It's a bit
Mm.
espionage. It's a bit Cold War James Bond almost. Not the bit where there's the action, but that sort of half an hour where there's machinations. Do you know what I mean?
I must confess, this was probably one of the biggest shocks to me was when you started asking about poison in the mining shop.
You did seem a bit shocked. You're like, what? But
Yeah,
you don't need to
I had to
kill
think pretty
animals.
fast on my feet about that one. That was unexpected stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Because you were like, oh, yeah. Well, normally people just flush rats out into space.
Yes.
We want poison. Stop making our lives difficult.
You live on a vacuum world and you've got a bug infestation or whatever. You just seal the bulkhead and open it to the vacuum, and a few seconds later, you've got no more infestation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Still, yes, it was. I think actually quite a fun swerve for me after I'd thrown you one the previous episode.
Yeah, I felt like we were getting a little bit back on you.
Probably fair. So for episode 4, um, the travellers had their discussions with Stanley Strife, the leader of the Riftsmen's Guild. They passed him all the information they'd gathered on the governor, the mine, the money they had acquired. Um, Even their occasional ally Sever was offered up as a sacrifice, giving away the fact that he was maybe not entirely being straight with Strife. They ended up with a promise that they could have some of the money and that Sever would be allowed or even encouraged to flee the system as far as Geeka, something he seemed to want anyway. And they also entered into a conspiracy involving the leadership of the entire world of Osin, um, adding just another few crimes to their existing slate, which is quite substantial by this point. Officer Pramus, a senior officer in the Imperial Navy, also seemed to want Sever to travel to Geeka, and so far it isn't clear why Sever and Pramus are so keen on this, or even if their reasons are the same ones. The travellers managed to secure the tacit agreement of Pramus that they should have some flexibility in their next moves. Um, and they ran with that, I think it's fair to say. In preparation for the annual speech by Governor Papa Krebs,
Oh,
the travellers made contact with his assistant, Sil Sava, and obtained a large quantity, 2 kilograms, of potassium cyanide, because there is supposedly an infestation of some sort.
there is a big infestation of fascism.
Yes. But by now, of course, I was kind of gathering where this was going, but it was still a surprise to me that he'd gone that way.
This was one of my favourite early ones because the follow-on from the last episode, me and you and basically were like, what are we going to... I think the episode title is like Kara puts everything on the table or something.
Yes.
And as you'd know from a couple of weeks ago when we'll get into it, when Sarai just approached the 3 people on that were looking out for them. Every now and again, I just quite like to face people face on, and that's what we decided to do. Just let everything out. This is what we want to do. This is what we want to do. We want to do something quite big politically. Here's everything we want. Here's everything we've got. We've spoken to this person in power. We've spoken to this person in power. Here we go. And it felt like you and I were sort of almost playing chess in the conversation because we were both manoeuvring in this discussion at that time, I think. So
Yes. Yes, it was. It, it was. It was certainly a bit of a swerve for me, and I don't mind the occasional swerve. You understand? I like that, but I by this point I had to be thinking pretty much on my feet for 2 straight episodes.
and you know us, we love going along with we don't push things for the sake of pushing things to be edgelords or anything.
No,
No.
no, you never do. And you're always very kind. If you know you're going somewhere for the next episode, you always let me know where you're planning to go so I can prep the area, say.
We have a discussion. Oh, hey, Stefan, maybe over the next 3 days we should look at going here, here, and here. Oh, that's a very good idea. Well done, Cara.
Exactly.
It's a team.
Yes, though I must
It's a
confess, it
team
was
game, isn't
quite amusing when you did one of those while you were bugged.
it? Yeah, exactly. Like, oh,
That did
oh.
actually. I tried not to smile too much, but it was like, I know I shouldn't, but that's quite funny.
Hoisted by our own player generosity.
Exactly. So,
Fess.
yes. Moving on. Episode 5. After making their preparations to leave their mark on Osin, securing arrangements with Stanley Strife, leader of the Riftsmen's Guild, and Officer Pramus of the Imperial Navy, the travellers finished their plans and set them in motion. At the governor's speech, the travellers murdered the governor and orchestrated the moment that Stanley Strife could demonstrate that he was the natural leader on the planet. Strife spoke to the citizens, claiming his place as the new power on Osin, even as Governor Krebs's body was still warm. And in the moments after Strife's triumph, the travellers were contacted by Pramus, who asked them, I assume, clean up on aisle 3?
It was a. We faffed around a bit. I think we. Hey, Sperry, right? Um, I think we were worried that there was going to be more danger than there was, I guess. So we faffed around an awful lot with where we were going to hide weapons and this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
And but it went the way we wanted it at the time, at least. So I liked it, and I think it was one where Ewan came into his own with a bit of his plotting. I feel because
Yeah.
his characters were the main two involved in that. So we decided on roles for each of us, and mine were very much observation-y kind of roles, whereas he
It
had
was
to
actually
go.
amazingly intricate, the plan. I was kind of hearing the Mission Impossible music play in my head while it was going on.
Exactly. No, he did
Yeah.
good. He did good that day. He did good.
Yeah.
He always
It
does
was
good.
it
He
was a
did good.
good thing, I think. It was a very well executed thing, despite the fact that ultimately the wrong character had to administer the poison.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That was that's what he got wrong. He even knew who was supposed to do it, and he messed it up.
easy mistake to make. So, episode 6. Um, for the second planet in a row, the Baltic Star had arrived at a planet, saw the sights, met some people, murdered some people, overthrew the government, and left in a bit of a rush.
It's our
And
style.
yeah, and with any luck, Osin would never know the exact identities of the small band of travelling sociopaths that left such a mark on it. But the travellers reminded Stanley Strife they owed some recompense for their efforts and their rather exclusive skill set. How many other modest sized companies are in the business of serial coup d'etat? And leaving Osin, they jumped to Geeka, which is a very different world. And here they immediately sneaked Sever, a man of proven violence, into this tourist paradise, and then made contact with the Deep Night Corporation in the city of Selville. Yes, never actually found a planet you couldn't ruin, basically.
I just um, and he still moaned at me for dropping off badly. It's one bad roll, the one bad pilot roll I've ever made, and he didn't even
Yeah.
die. He just bumped against a wall somewhere.
No,
Ali,
you're right.
Ali, you can have a uniform. You can make your own uniform. You've got skills. You can be in charge of making all the uniforms. They'd be upholstered uniforms. They'd have very big shoulder pads. If no one has before, Ali is an amazing upholsterer. She's just completed a course and she's made the most incredible chair recently that shops actually want to buy off her to flog to rich people.
Mm.
If you get a chance, Discord, Discord someone, Fiddles, Discord it. Ali, are you willing to put a picture of your chair on the Discord? Because it is proper amazing and people should look at. skill respects skill. Do you know what I mean? So to do it, that'd be amazing. Thank you. Sorry. Um, yeah. What I loved, Ben, about this was you took us from a dirty, dusty world, and from the very beginning, we didn't get to do the. It was an introduction, wasn't it? It was 20
Mm.
minutes, but I think our lungs opened from just the description of it, just from seeing the sea and the land and the first descriptions of like the monorail stuff and that. It was just, and getting rid of Sever for a short time was even more relaxing.
Yeah. Weirdly, I think I kind of needed Geeker. I'd been locked down in my home for months thanks to the disease. So, so
Yeah.
suddenly I wanted somewhere that wasn't quite so claustrophobic to explore.
Speaking of which, I think episode 7 carries on for me that feeling from you, I think. Yes.
Yeah, probably. Yes. Yeah, it's certainly a similar kind of thing. Yeah. Yes. So, episode 7 it is. Um, episode 7. Arriving on Geeka, the travellers had decided to explore the planet a little, like tourists, before getting on with any business they might have. And the world was mostly covered with vast oceans, and on 7 levelled mountaintops, the city of Selville was its capital. After learning a little about the city and its layout, the travellers went to visit the fabled Earth Park. A trip by dirigible took them to the first of the peaks, making up the Earth Park site. And they booked a room in the Earth Park Hotel. And then, following the trip, they visited the Fragrant Forest, which was the landing point. They enjoyed the forest itself, took in a little entertainment, ate some authentic Earth food, and then Stefan decided to show off his acrobatic skills, which ended poorly at first. Um,
uh,
but he recovered, I think, with a certain amount of enthusiasm. He picked himself back up, and then they basically ended the episode wandering back through the forest in this rather lovely environment of Earth Park.
where there was a rather lovely ending, actually. Um, this was the one. I At this point, lockdown had been getting to all of us, I think, and not being able to go anywhere, knowing that holidays weren't going to happen and this and that. And when you started describing Earth Park and the forest and the opening out, I pictured it so vividly that I actually got quite emotional. And I think I commented it on at the time, either during it or after when cameras are off. Um, but it was a beautiful thing, and I loved it so much. And at that point, it almost felt like being on holiday, that session, and it was it was exactly what was needed. And Ewan agreed afterwards. Actually, it was exactly what was needed. It was lovely. That's why I spent so long in the forest and just watching the bad Shakespeare and doing gymnastics and eating Earth Park meat, and just and the smell. Describing the smells, and it was just it was exactly. Especially after Austin and lockdown, it was bang on, Ben. Top notch work.
Super. I was enjoying it myself as well, and Earth Park was enormous fun to create, as you can imagine. So in episode 8, they continued their exploration of Earth Park on Geeka, and the boys from the Baltic Star saw a wonderful beach and some magnificent giant beasts and some predators. One predator in particular, Emma Corbett, a Black Sun operative, was skulking around and paying a little bit too much attention to them. When they confronted her, she claimed she was keeping an eye out for potential threats to a Black Sun commander called Falco, who the travellers had met on Osin, of course. Well, briefly. She was easily turned away from her task as soon as she realised that Sever wasn't with them. And he seemed to be the reason for all this security and people snooping around and meandering about, paying too much attention to the Baltic Star crew. She actually appeared completely unaware that Sever was even on Geeka, even though we know, of course, he'd been dropped off an episode or two earlier.
Yeah.
After seeing most of the carnivores living in the Carnivore Caves exhibit, the boys from the Baltic Star finished the episode just about to enter the very last enclosure on the peak. the direwolf enclosure, which is weird if you know what's coming later, that's where the break was.
If only there was a sign. If only there was something.
It's almost as if there was foreshadowing or something. I don't know.
Something like something maybe that maybe came up later in the story. Maybe I don't know, but it didn't really. Yes, I quite liked Emma Corbett in a way. She was a straightforward person. I fell out with her later on.
Business-like.
I fell out with her later on, of course, but I
Yeah.
don't know. She was right at the time. She's all right. Can't complain about her.
Yeah. And so then we started to move to a slightly more action-oriented episode. Because in episode 9, the travelers completed their exploration of Earthpark. While there, they'd met Emma Corbett and spotted Falco. And Falco fled at the sight of them, leaping into a boat and crossing the lake to escape.
Oh no, this is a classic episode.
The travelers in hot pursuit, stealing 2 other boats, in fact, to pursue. But it turned out the lake wasn't entirely uninhabited. A vast shark, a megalodon, came up and attacked the boats. Now, the boats did not all make it, it has to be said. But amazingly, and through some pretty good rolls actually, the people all survived, just by the margin of a toothskin. And following their excitement, the travellers decamped to their hotel on the Kuala Plateau.
Let's not beat around the bush. One of our number very nearly died in that session.
Mm-hmm.
They were a roll away, I think we would agree with. It's probably the closest. I feel it's the closest. I know Stefan has worn his fair share of shots, but it kind of felt like the closest we got to an incidental death almost. And it was episode 9. You were on Twitter for a while actually when he was doing the Saturday, the Saturday Love-In. People say, "Hey, what are you doing at the minute?" And people post, "I'm doing this." He'll post it, and people will say, "What episode should I watch?" And he'd say episode 9 would be the thing, because it's got the megalodon, it's got we're going to need a bigger boat, it's got drama, it's got excitement, it's got near death, it's got all sorts of things. It's a very good episode actually, because we're not very action focused, are we?
No,
Really?
no. As a campaign, it's much more intrigue than violence. And but that's kind of suits the mood, doesn't it? I think the way we think about role playing and the way we think about the games. So it's never felt like that was out of character or anything for the people. And they do have the ability to unleash violence when they need to. It's just that instead of storming the castle, they secretly poison people. And
instead of storming the castle, we overthrow the entire planet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, which is a way to go, isn't it?
Exactly. Fiddles, I would agree with that quote. I think Twitch is a big place, and there's a lot of place for everything. And what I've found through following a lot and watching a lot of RPG stories is my repeat views tend to go to, and this is just me, of course, but quirky ones. So, let me flick away. There is, what are their names? Hang on, bear with me. It's all gone wrong. There's a few Bits Before Crits. Bits Before Crits do really quirky stuff. If people on here don't follow, it's Fiddles. I can't type it because I'm looking at things. Can you type it? It's Bits, BITS, BEFORE, CRITS. Bits like criticals. Bits Before Crits. If people follow Bits Before Crits, they do one-shots, quirky stuff, weird stuff, funny stuff, little side things. And there's a few channels like that, and I think the more we feel secure in ourselves, I think the more we feel that we can just be who we are. Ben, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was, I think, nervous is the wrong word, but certainly cautious about the pace of our games and whether or not they would interest people. But after a while, you just think, you know what? There are games.
Well, we
If
said from
people enjoy them, that's lovely.
you said from the start, we're going to put it on. We're going to play it anyway. If people want to watch and hang out, then that's a bonus. We're going to play it anyway. Well, let's show it. And then you guys started coming and watching, and more importantly than watching, chatting, and getting involved in things. And we've done like the Olympics last night, just adding to just our fun times. And
Yeah.
thank you to whoever bought something from Etsy. That's just popped up on my phone, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. Was that an Earthpark bag? But thank you very much, whoever bought from Etsy. Really
I
appreciate
actually have an Etsy mug this evening for my
it.
wine.
The
Yeah,
Etsy mug.
from our Etsy store.
There we go. Oh, look at this. This is some slick. Ah, Leno. That's some slick advertising there. It was Leno. Leno's bringing the love. Good work, Leno. Thank you. A drink to Leno. I'll drink to that, Leno. I can't click I'll drink to that. I think we've talked to that before. I have no power because I've got the infinite bits. It's like infinite
Yes,
power, but limited power. So I can only click on things where I get
itty
some.
bitty living space.
So I can spend anything, but only on things I can click someone's name on. So I can't
Yeah,
actually do. I'll drink to that, but I'll drink to that. And now, Leno, now that you've got the mug, you've got a little bit more to wash up. So it's win-win.
absolutely.
That's a...
Yeah. So proceeding,
Thank you, Ali.
episode
I'll
10.
drink to that.
Getting down to business on Geeka. The travellers checked into the Earthpark Hotel to recover from their recent boating excursion. Um, and they met Lan Patero, a senior executive for Earthpark, um, who led them to some potentially useful information and a scheduled meeting with the CEO of Black Sun Corporation on Rena. Um, they even arranged for the opportunity to purchase a book. Um, a visit to Homer Dawes, a broker,
Oh,
led them to learn of a corporation on Venti that might be interested in a direct sale of their cargo and a company who might be able to sell them some fish, as well as a general trader on Elia. And on leaving the broker, their attention was directed into a narrow alley, and there they saw the familiar figure of Seva lurking in the shadows, who asked for their help.
was this the one where we started the session with a lot of drinking and cafeteriaing and gambling and stuff?
Um,
Because
I have a vague feeling it was actually.
because not much got done, but it was a bit of a blow off night, and it felt like it was needed. You can normally
Mm.
tell for those of you that don't stream. I don't know if everyone's the same because we actually live in the same town and we actually gasp, have drunk and hung out together physically before, and like to do it and get on well. But I almost feel like we can tell when people need a certain kind of night, and I think it goes that way quite quickly. And Ben is very generous and is quick to allow us certain things, or we know that Ben wants to lead to something, so we go with it. And I think that night was this might have been the night when you lost the someone you lost the bet because Ewan lost it later.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. You,
Yeah,
so whoever loses, we do a bet every now and again in game, and the loser has to give the toast, which will happen in a little while. Half term, it's tradition. Um,
absolutely. It's a tradition, therefore it must be obeyed.
Thank you, Fiddles. Yes, so it was a blow off session where we got to see how they were going to use our nearly dead bodies to advertise T-shirts and mugs without actually showing our faces. The swine.
Indeed.
Lousy Earth Park.
Yes, absolutely. It was well, it was actually a merch session in many ways.
It was a merch session, yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely right. So, episode 11, the boys from the Baltic Star had spent a day exploring the city of Selville. And Stefan decided to follow Seva, but lost him in the city. Kara made a friend on Mina while streaming her experiences over the HoloNet. She also invited a possible contact, the Commodore, to join them on their evening lake cruise. And after exploring Lata, the travellers met up on Rena. These are all the names of various peaks that make up the city, to meet with Amy Grushenko at the Black Sun offices. But she turned out to be largely uninterested in them, now that, unexpectedly, the missing money has been found somehow. Not entirely clear how that happened, but hey. However, on leaving the offices, as they wandered through the lobby, they spotted a familiar face. Anton Fess.
Fast.
Fess.
Fast. This Ewan used to tell people, like we said, that we need a bigger boat episode. Episode 9 was the one that he would promote. For the other side of our adventures, this first fiddles first. I need to get a graphic for that as well. A really miserable looking, horrible man. First. I loved this episode. And I know it's because this is where I went Cara vlogging vibe. But I just spent... Everyone did their thing. Stefan went and got sneaky. Cara jumped off with some graffiti paint to spray up the posh part of town, which we'd been threatening to do for ages, and then ran into some important people that you managed to bring into the story. And we have Fess at the end. It had everything. It had absolute bants, literal laughter when Cara was coming back on the train and still vlogging in front of old women and things. From actual humour to a horrific, again, one of your all-time quality, what they called the end? Not twists.
Cliffhangers?
Cliffhangers, yeah.
Yeah, you need an occasional cliffhanger.
Oh, it was a good one there, as good as the Sever one. It had, I think, episode 7, if people are going to catch up, if people are going to flick through a couple, flick through a bit and a bit, but listen to a few, because I know it's a couple of hours and it's investment, right? 9 and 11 are really good for two different sides of the coin, I guess. 9 will give you the taste of Earth Park and us in danger. 11 gives us the people hanging out, a bit of bants, with it tightening up at the end. I think they're great episodes. So.
Yes, I think that's not a bad call, actually. Yeah.
10 was a blow off, so unless you watch it when you're drunk, but otherwise.
And just one more to go before we take our little hot half-time break, because we do have 24 to cover, and this is number 12.
I need to win.
Episode 12. The boys from the Baltic Star had this tense encounter with their old nemesis, Anton Fess, who is also known, it turns out, as Mattis Fess on Geeka. And after evading him, seemingly without any difficulty, they set out to make their way to the hotel and their evening lake tour. They met the Commodore and his wife, Angelica. They learnt more of his relationship with Kat Aralesti and witnessed her flying skills before setting off for a dinner cruise of the lake.
Sorry, Leno redeemed it. Sorry.
Before they even had the chance to discuss a possible arrangement with the Commodore, they found a boat pull alongside theirs on the darkening lake, and aboard, once again, was Anton Fess.
So, you know how we said that Falco was like the 12 episode, the mid-season baddie. Fess is the one that runs at least a couple of series. And for anyone that hasn't watched episode 12, that wants to watch two fully grown men, what's you in 36? A 36-year-old and a 40-year-old basically start an episode unable to think or make a plan because a pretend man is in a room, and they fall apart like 3-year-olds panicking about what's going on. I don't know what happened. I think we built Fess up so much in our minds that week that we fell apart, and it's hilarious to watch, actually, I think. And then it's hilarious that, especially with episode 13, which we'll go into in a bit, of course, it's hilarious to think that we did well out of that situation as well. Right? But episode 12 was great. The only problem with episode 12 was the stream crash. So I think it's in 3 parts, which is a shame because it's a really good episode with a really lovely graphic. And it was it builds to a very beautiful setting that I think we fed Ben in our generous feeding of the give and the take. Because what are the animals that help each other out? Like the little fish that lives in the big fish's mouth and cleans its teeth.
Symbiotes.
Yeah, me and you are the little fish in the teeth, and you're the big fish. And so, a few sessions before, when we were like, we want to go here, and we want to spend a night on the lake, but we said that weeks before, because I think that's important. If we want a good time on the lake, you can't just like throw it on Ben, because when we went to Austin, we threw it on Ben. He wasn't expecting us to go to Austin, and then the session had to finish. So we were being kind, and then he threw it back in our faces with filth and danger.
Filth and danger. It's like they're my middle names.
Yeah, how are they? But it was nice. It was lovely. It was lovely to get on the lake. We'd been eyeing up the lake for a while, and the Commodore and his wife are lovely NPCs.
Yeah.
Unlike Fess,
Yeah.
who's a bell end. But the other two are lovely NPCs. Good episode 12. Good episode. It's in 3 parts though, but they're all worth watching. I think one's only about 15 minutes. You can watch it while
Yeah, we had some technical difficulties during the stream, but it is actually one of my favourite episodes. I found that very entertaining.
Yeah, it's only because you knew what we didn't. But you're as much of a bell end as Fess.
Yeah, and we're going to have a break in a second, but when we come back, my finest moment as a referee is in the next episode, I think.
So if you want to finish now, that's okay. We don't mind. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Are we taking a break then? I need a wee actually.
Yeah, I think we should take a break now. Yes.
Cool. Right, we're going to take a 5 minute. Don't go anywhere, people. It's really upsetting when you come back and you look at the stats when you've all gone to bed, and it takes a dip at break time. It's upsetting because we put nice music on. I do a couple of little texts while I'm in the toilet. You don't know that, now you do. So, hang around. Let's come back. We've got another 12 episodes. Thank you very much. Fiddles, entertain everyone.
Yes, over to you.
Over to you. Sparrow's on form tonight. I think Sparrow can entertain the crowds.
Yeah,
Good. We're in good hands. Right, we're off. See you in 5. If I can click, I lose the buttons. We've got too many things on here now. Hang on a second. We're not gone yet. Hang on. That's there. That's good. This is good. Let's put some music on. Let's go. 5. Leno, tell a joke. Don't bring down the mood with your run. Hey, during the break, someone subscribe, by the way. Not subscribe, follow, sorry. Thank you for follow. I would check, but my laptop is so old. I go onto the internet. Get up on the floor. Back to the music for a minute while me and Ben just compose ourselves. I feel like an 80s DJ. Tonight on the radio, this theme song we use every week because it's free. We're back. Welcome back. And I've disrespected Grey Hill Bass. It's a terrible start. Hang on. Okay. Our usual toastmaster for our traditional Grey Hill Bass toast, which is tradition. We toast Grey Hill Bass halfway through each of our Fridays. But our Toastmaster at the moment is Ewan. He was the last one to lose a bet, and therefore he is the Toastmaster, but he's not here. So me and Ben are going to channel the power and the energy of all those weddings you've been to in the last 15 years, where instead of one best man, people have had two or three, and it's been rather awkward because they've all had to give best man speeches.
Yeah.
So me and Ben are going to channel that awkwardness and both toast Greyhill. And either we're going to do it together, or you can toast both times, or once, or be a bit awkward and half toast and then not toast, drink to it, or drink. And it's going to be awkward, but we're going to try it. Ben, as the senior party, please, I defer to you.
Okay, well, we first met Greyhill Bast when he was lurking in an alley around the back of a hotel, on a mission for someone that hasn't turned up since in the campaign, and is in many ways long forgotten, and probably better forgotten, to be fair, because he's a mean-spirited sort who hires an otherwise thoroughly decent chap to do dirty work, kind of like the way our party regularly does. So that was when we first met him, and when we last saw him, he was showing off the fact that he had, truthfully, many strengths. One of which was his soft and yielding flesh, which was torn to pieces by high velocity ammunition and laser fire. And that is, all very sad. However, he has turned into a regular tradition on the ship. So, without further ado, to Greyhill.
To Greyhill. You're such a downer. I knew Greyhill far before you knew him. We were 18. We're at university together. We got drunk a lot. We partied a lot, and we were the best of friends. Greyhill Basts! Hey, Greyhill!
To Greyhill Bast.
Oh, like many weddings I've been to recently, to be fair.
Yes. Yes, too many like that, actually. I do actually have a bit of a ninja surprise now. This is not actually something that Luke and I have discussed, so he's about to get very angry with me.
It's not a picture of me naked singing, is it, again? I've told you before.
I wouldn't do that again.
No. Once. People don't know what episode that's on, though.
You'll have to hunt for that one. Yeah. No, I received. We've just finished our sort of Summer of Love thing, and the reason we called it the Summer of Love is we were going to sort of shout out to community creators or people who make interesting stuff that people might be interested in, and I got a new Summer of Love entry, if you like, after we'd finished Summer of Love, or technically too late to put into Summer of Love, but you know what I mean. So, just for a few moments, I'm going to put up the advert, the poster for, and tell you just a little bit about this Geek Stitch company. I say company, it's a person, in fact, who creates cross-stitch kits for geeky things. And I have on my wall, in fact, a Star Wars themed one that she was not only kind enough to design, but also to actually stitch for me, so I didn't have to impale my thumbs repeatedly with sharp things while doing it. So if you're interested, if there's anyone here who's actually interested in cross stitch, this is they are kits that come with everything you need, and you just do it. So take a look at the site. All of the details are on there, and she will ship anywhere in the world. They're not enormously bulky things, and you can create your own geeky things. And there are lots of things there from all sorts of anime and science fiction and all sorts of stuff. So take a little look. Right.
That's a good
With
one.
that done.
Thanks, Fiddles. That's a good link. That's a good one. I like it. Okay.
With that done, perhaps it is time to return to the theme of the evening, which is the story so far.
Death and misery.
Well, it's not all death and misery. Sometimes it's just misery or death. And we just finished talking about episode 12. So we come on to episode 13. The boys from the Baltic Star spent an evening on the lake, enjoying the company of an old friend, Anton Fess, and breaking the ice on a possible business deal with the Commodore. As boating trips on the lake go, it turned out to be no more risky than their last one, though that did set the bar quite low, to be fair. They were offered the opportunity to spend some time on one of the Commodore's ships, and they agreed that they would be taken there by Kat Aralesti, his pilot and girlfriend, on and off, in a couple of days. Kat had also suggested they might enjoy a visit to the Cascade, a bar and nightclub on Lake Simel. The party was much taken with the wonderful waterfall trick that was there at the bar, but less impressed with learning one of the party had been discreetly bugged, and their plans were not necessarily private. Returning to the Hotel Coronet, the travellers, still unsure how to handle the bug, decided to arrange for a birthday surprise for Agnar's 70th, as they put it, and hatched a plan with one of the infinite numbers of Tims that inhabit this galaxy in order to carry that out. And that was the end of the episode.
I know I've been telling people about watching many episodes, but episode 13 is a banger as well, actually. It starts with... There's some... I won't lie, there's some business. We're talking fish. We're not talking the big deals, because the big deals are done later, but we do talk fish. But it's good to talk fish. And we had some more... Anything on that lake was just a lovely... Two lovely episodes. I know Fess was there ruining everything. Tim!
Tim!
I went a bit trigger happy then. Tim! But I thought me and Ewan had made a point that week to get it together and act like grown men in Fess's presence and tried to go on the front foot, and I think we were a bit more respectable then.
Mm-hmm.
So 13 was great. We got to see the lake, and then the Cascade, and I think you said at the time, it's the club that you would love, right?
Yeah.
It is. And again, for someone who had not gone out drinking, partying, because this was still, I think, before we were into full drinking pub modes at that time, I think.
Mm.
So I think me and Ewan as well, although Ewan can't see things because he's got that mind that means he can't picture things, but I think we all bought into it, and I think that's why we went back like 3 times, because it was such a space. And I'm sure you guys that have listened to the episodes with the Cascade, I'm hoping that you could picture it. And I think episode 13 has Ben's favourite cover picture that I've done on our Twitch episodes.
Yes,
with the rainbow.
I think that's absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
So the Twitch episodes, when we highlight them and I put them into the storage, basically, you can flick through them all in the playlist, and they've all got an intro card, which I've spent time over doing, and I think that's a pretty one with the water caught in the rainbow and in the cave. It's lovely, and so
it also has my single favourite NPC moment in the campaign so far.
Does it involve Tim?
Fess, I'm afraid.
Fess.
Fess. I'm afraid it is a Fess moment on the boat, but I'm pretty sure it's in that episode. In fact, I'm certain it is, and it's my favourite NPC moment when Fess is having a conversation with, I think it's Agnar. No, I think it's Stefan actually, and it was a very, very fun conversation.
Stefan really doesn't like him. Agnar can play it because Agnar's a bit more political. Stefan, I think, openly doesn't like Fess. So yeah, for a good conversation.
Yes, understandably. I mean,
so.
he's a fairly shady chap.
Yeah, very unpleasant chap.
Yes, indeed. So, in episode 14, the crew of the Baltic Star had spent the morning visiting the naval base on Gika, flying up to meet Officer Pramus and updating her on their situation and any changes. They met some rather brusque naval infantry and were reintroduced to the woman they inadvertently framed for murder and treason. Making their way back towards the more civilized end of the city, however, they realized they were being followed, and in a tense showdown, Agnar threw himself at the person they'd spotted, causing chaos and allowing the travelers to move back to the hotel.
I liked episode 14. If I've got to stop putting them as high episodes. Oh, no, just watch them all, guys. Come on, you got time, haven't you? It showed the power, if we didn't know it already, of Pramus. We are dabbling with fire because she's like our little military mama, who definitely doesn't see herself as our little military mama, and I think we sort of dial in that card a bit too often. I think at times, and she's a very powerful woman, and I think she flashed that episode. Do you know what I mean? It made it was serious, and then realizing that our actions have things come from our actions with the woman that was framed for us, which me and you and then decided that week to decide how are we going to save that woman.
Mm.
That became, you know what me and you are like, that became our big thing. And then we had our little... It's not the first time we've been followed by someone and then gone into overly ridiculous attempts to lose the person that's been following us. We just don't like being followed, Ben.
No, I can't actually blame you. It's never ended well for you.
No, I don't want to give too much away. I guess if people want to watch it. But the different approach of Agnar and Kara was quite entertaining, I think.
I agree with you, actually. I think their approaches were very distinct.
And again, like some of these other episodes, and I'm not downgrading it because every stream is like of equal value, right? And a lot of streams have far more viewers than us. But there's other streams that would have the person that's following them would have like stabbed them or like grabbed them or like done a fight or something like that. But we did things differently, didn't we? And that's just the way we are, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Yes, I think that's true. It's very much more a thinky and talky stream rather than an angry one. Yes,
we
for
get
the most part.
we get angry. We just wait until you've gone, and then me and you and just moan about you all Saturday.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like civilized people.
Exactly. Yeah. Like when no one's we're British, not when someone's around to hear you. No, 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 no.
Be very undignified.
Very undignified.
Yes, indeed. So, episode 15. In rather a glorified shopping episode, the crew of the Baltic Star did a little tourism in the company of the exuberant tour guide Jeremiah Van Cotswolds, visiting an unusual theme restaurant where tourists could get a glimpse of a regular spacer's haunt. After that came more shopping and a quiet evening with a second visit to Cascade before being collected and taken hundreds of kilometres north to a fishing ship. There they learnt a little more of the Commodore's business and perhaps gained a little insight into the activities of the devious Anton Fess. In the cove, which was the ship's destination, the travellers spotted some ruined structures on the shore.
It was one of those episodes that sort of takes you from one set to the next set. I guess a connecting episode, but I think it was a good connecting. I think you did it well. You made big use of Leno's. Was it Leno's first?
Yeah, his very first
Very
NPC.
first
Yeah.
NPC. He dropped his 1,000 credits, which is not available tonight, by the way. Sorry. Makes me not the NPC. He dropped his first NPC credits on his first Von Cotswold,
Mm-hmm.
who reminded me a lot like, what did I say? The guy from Demolition Man, the helper.
Yes. Yeah.
The rather eccentric helper guy. I can't remember the actor's name, but it's great. It was a really good session. You took us to the theme pub. We bought off. This is where this episode is very important for people that are Baltic Star aficionados. It was the first mention of the geeks.
That's true, and the visit to, but by the first set of Geeks merchandise.
Yeah, so I got involved. She got the cap, she
Yeah.
got the shirt, she got a picture of the most handsome man, who it then turned out in the future was another von Cotswold, which is very upsetting, but
There you go.
It is what it is. If you're going to let people choose names for 1,000 credits, then you've got to live with them on Cotswolds, haven't you? Up the
Well,
geeks,
it turns
Sally,
out
up
if
the
you're going to
geeks.
let Leno do it, sure.
Yeah. Is there a way we can stop one person from doing it? I don't make it 4 times expensive.
That would seem oddly harsh.
Apparently, Ewan's got 18,000 credits. You need to make some things a bit more expensive. I thought it was good because I think we knew beforehand it was a bit of a Lincoln episode. We knew we were going to the ship and we knew we had that sightseeing day. And I think you timed it very well because we could have spent the whole episode doing it and it would have been a bit pointless. I think your timing on the episode was very good. So,
Right, thank you.
Congratulations.
That's very kind of you.
because we got to the shore, didn't we? We actually got to the start of the next
You
jump.
got to spot the thing from the ship. I don't think you actually made it ashore.
But I think so. That suggests it was excellent use of time.
Yeah. Okay. So then we get to episode 16. So setting out to explore this more remote region of Geeka, the travellers had taken up the Commodore's offer to visit one of his fishing vessels, and they flew and then sailed 1,000 kilometres or so north of the city to a quiet cove in a distant island, where the team spotted a ruined structure mostly hidden in the forest. And they went ashore and explored this structure, eventually going down 2 levels into a dark chamber with a large pool, a whole load of chalky residue on the floor, and a completely unknown purpose. It was covered in carvings and mysterious symbols. And as they began to explore around this room, the sun outside dipped below the horizon, and the noise of something approaching was heard from the only entrance into the chamber. And that was amazingly where we had the break.
Yes, Sparrow. What was this? This was the what was the episode title? Groins and holes and poop.
Yeah.
Oh,
And poop.
It's my favourite episode title of the lot. Groins and holes and poop.
Indeed. Yeah.
Because I'm quite base. Unlike Ben, he's very artistic. I'm very base. I thought it was good. It was the first adventuring one we'd done since before episode 1, when we were doing our 7-hour drunken escapades in the summer. In fact, when Ben couldn't join us because that was this whole adventure started in the spring of 2020. We played a little bit of original Traveller just to get a vibe down, which we very much enjoyed. And then we character created basically a week into lockdown, wasn't it? That was the first time we did a Traveller character creation. Was the first time we did on a laptop. And then we did a few episodes, me in my office and everyone in the house and that. And then just as that summer started, when we could get around people's houses, we managed to get together, but Ben didn't for the first couple, quite wisely because of personal situations, really, wasn't it? So, so those episodes, we went to the planet and dealt with some horrible gloopy stuff, which luckily you never need to know about. There was some weird zombies, there was some weird gloop, there was some tentacle, there's a bit of hentai. There wasn't hentai, but
no,
there's a lot
something
of
else.
tentacly black gloop, and there's some horrible stuff. But for the first time since that, which was pre-episode 1, we explored stuff.
Yeah.
So that it was a little bit of a thrill, I guess, because we went out into the big beyond and went around looking at things.
Yeah.
We didn't do it very well.
Yes, it was fun for me again because it was a different kind of episode. It was like a dungeon crawl almost. It was again just a departure and an opportunity to have you guys take a look at something and see if you could work out what it was for and why it was the way it was and things like that, and see what you could learn, which is always interesting, especially if those kind of things have a potential payoff in the future, if you know what I mean.
And as soon as you mentioned carving, of course, that piqued our interest because don't tell on me. It's his fault for being on holiday and actually having a life. Actually, again, before episode 1, we had a big thing where we went to the planet and there was a massive carving carved into wall, which Ben touched on before this, which you guys will never hear because it doesn't exist in. It's really sad that we did sessions without recording now. Do you know what I mean? Because
yeah, I know what you mean.
It was personal. It was for us. It means everything to us, but nothing to anyone else. But there was a massive carving, like massive letters, like ancient letters carved in the wall. We spent ages looking to see if we could carve into them or burn them off, and we couldn't. So, i.e., it's something massive and ancient that sent Stefan funny. Stefan literally went weird on it. Agnar went funny. Zoe didn't like. Was it Zoe that didn't like them? There was a few.
Yeah, she wasn't as well. Stefan was really badly affected, right. But yeah, Zoe and Agnar, I think, had a bit of a reaction.
And then a number of other NPCs then didn't like it at all. So Kara, for a while, went around. So if you ever hear Kara talking about showing people a picture on her phone, it's of that, because she kept showing it in people's faces to see if they get a reaction. So anything we hear of carvings, we're big on. And Ben went big on carvings in episode 16. And so we were all over that. all over the carvings.
All over the carvings.
If you talk about carvings on Twitter or something, I'm all over the carvings. I'll be retweeting you left, right, and centre if you talk about the carvings.
Absolutely. Okay. Episode 17. The travellers, it turned out, had a tense and tricky exit to the ancient building on the shore of the cove. They fought their way past a number of sea bats, large flying mammals, encountering some that were very large and covered with scaly armoured skin. During the battle, Stefan and Zoe were injured, but both remained conscious and able to move. And Kara noticed that in a moment of pressure, Zoe seemed able to render a large sea bat unconscious without making physical contact with it. They picked their way back out of the mysterious structure and climbed out into the dark forest, with sea bats still circling above them in the night. And that was where that episode ended.
There are 3 things I remember about this episode. Number 1 was Mr. Leno's fan art, including a sea bat munching down on was it Agnar's head, the most hilarious picture, which I think I added to month 2 of the zine because it was so beautiful. So if anyone that subscribes, by the way, if you're watching and you haven't, if you subscribe, I know subscribing just gets you not very much, like a picture sometimes, because we think we're not worth that. What we do is we give you some extra stuff. So month 1 and 2, we give you a zine, a physical zine that I cut and stick and created about stuff from the Baltic Star. I PDF it, and you get that for month 1 and month 2, and then month 3 you get some literal physical stuff to anywhere in the world, like some postcards and stuff. But month 2, Ali and Leno have both done some fan art, so we added it to the zine. And one was a sea bat munching on one of Ewan's characters' heads, that's one of my memories. The other one was that Kara was utterly useless in firefights, but the second that it came to noticing stuff, she rolled 12s.
She was awesome at spotting things.
She missed everything in the fight. But the second the combat stopped, she's like, oh. Which is hilarious. And the third was Sparrow coming in with an absolute classic clutch move with giving Ewan a boon.
My God, yes, that's right.
Saved Stefan's life that night.
It might well have done, yeah. That was a seriously good timed boon, yeah.
So enough respect. Oh, I did that quite well actually. Enough respect with a K. You did. You literally logged in the first, like, hi, boon.
There was this sort of comment about, this seems dangerous. Let's give him a boon.
because he was like on very little health and was at the front of the queue just as another big sea bat was appearing.
Yeah. Yes, it turned out it was a very good boon to have.
Good
Yes.
boon.
Well, such is life.
Yeah.
Okay.
1:30. 1:30 strong danger time. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so.
No danger at 11 p.m. though.
No, never. Never
Never
danger at
danger at
11.
11. Build up to it.
Um, so in episode 18, following the exploration of the mysterious cove, the travelers returned to the Explorer 3, the fishing ship, and soon after were collected by Cat Aralesti for their return journey. They took a brief stop at the Hotel Coronet, which revealed a gift that had been left for Agnar,
Hmm.
before everyone travelled to the Commodore's luxurious mansion on Mina for lunch, where they were hoping to advance their business interests and do some amateur ichthyology. While there, they began to experience the Commodore's taste and style, but also discovered that they had been bugged again. This time, Agnar was the chosen target. A very good roll revealed
Hmm.
that the most likely time for the bug to be planted was during their last shopping trip, when he bundled past someone in attempting to prevent them from being followed. After dealing with the bug, which was of the same type as the one Anton Fess had planted previously, they were introduced to Paral Karar, an arrogant Aslan noble who seemed to instantly dislike Zoe, even before she asked if Kitty wanted a saucer of laser.
I loved episode 18. You know me, I like talky episodes. I absolutely loved it. I like the fact that it started still on the island, so there was still a bit of danger because they were nesting. We had to get off the. We had a few problems getting off. We had that sort of sleepy second third of a movie back on the boat, where people were sort of hanging out in the night. Cara did a vlog. People was like sat on the, sat looking at the stars. I love that. And then we came back for brunch. It's always going to be brunch. Whatever anyone ever says, it was brunch. There were mimosas and there were cheesy balls, so it was brunch. And did we get to the Von Cotswold on that episode?
Yeah, I think so. The rather stretched version of it,
A
yes.
really good Von Cotswold that episode actually. It's worth hanging up for that painful Von Cotswold. But it was, and I think that was the one that I gave the most uh, laid back episode title for. It's like the one where we went to brunch. A lot more
Yeah,
happened, but it was like it just seemed like it was a really nice connecting episode that I really liked though. It was chill, it was fun. There was
yeah,
a nice vibe with that
yeah.
with just enough,
It felt like an entertaining episode. Yes, it was. It was again in a sort of a bit of a pause after a bit more action and a bit more exploration. There was a bit of time to catch up with characters and learn a bit more about the universe, so to speak.
yeah. We learned. I think we noticed it a bit on the ship on episode like 11, but I think we noticed it more there that if there's an awkwardness of poshness, Soraya and Stefan clump together to try and avoid it because they're not made for that kind of thing. And I quite like that about them. There's a certain Cara and Agnar go right. No, we're going to talk. We're going to sort it. Agnar through his poshness, Cara just through her brashness, I guess. But
Yeah,
the other two are like, nah, I'm awkward. Let's just sit down the bottom end, drink our mimosas, get a little bit drunk, which Sarai did in the next episode, and just like ignore the awkward. And I love that because that's probably where a lot of us would naturally go, right?
yeah,
I
I
think
think so.
that so
Yeah,
which I like. So there's
yeah. I mean,
humanity.
one of the things you notice, of course, is as you get to know the characters, you recognise pieces of yourself in all of them,
Mm,
if you see what I mean.
yeah.
Because they're not the same as any of us, but they have bits of the jigsaw of them that is sort of, I can think of bits of me that is a bit like a Stefan or a bit like a Kara, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, and it is amusing then when you see these sort of quite archetypal characters deal with the same situation so profoundly differently.
So, you would.
Yeah. And such is life, that's how people are.
Oh, definitely. Well, like I say, like Kara and Sarah as my two characters, there are times where I would deal with something in a very Kara way, and times where I'd deal with it in a very Sarah way. Sarah would generally be a bit more sitting in the background watching it, but then when she's had enough, just do something like march up to the person and do it. Whereas Kara's much
Yeah.
more big, big. But is she big because she's confident, or is she big because she's masking an insecurity, or both? I don't know. It's only episode 24. So stay tuned.
Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah. Absolutely right. Yeah. So episode 19 um, had the lunch at the Commodore's mansion on Mina,
No,
which
no,
proved to be
what? Brunch.
no, I'm not having
Oh,
that.
no, it
It
was
was
at
brunch
11.
as you set off
Oh,
to go there, but then there was
you
a
can't tell it.
lot of messing about.
If it starts as brunch, it finishes at brunch.
Okay, then
People back me up on this.
fair enough. In that case, a brunch at the Commodore's mansion on Mina proved to be an ideal opportunity to purchase a very large quantity of fish, see a very large pet,
Yeah.
and receive an invitation to a very large stadium ship, which for Soraya is a very large deal. And that, of course, has turned up since. A complex discussion with Paral Karar led to some very interesting information about carvings and a few questions about the past of the Baltic Star, along with the invitation to meet with some experts in, well, carvings and archaeology generally. With Kat Aralesti too well fed, we'll say, to fly them home, it was by public transport that our merry, very merry travellers returned to their hotel and the inevitable Tim encounter, of course. Um, on the way, Kara spotted that they seemed to be being followed once again, but not by anyone they recognised, and the group was so concerned they immediately went to bed.
That was a very strange experience. Oh, we're being followed. What are we going to do? Let's go to bed. It'll work out. So I'm trying to find a pen because I want to create a way that people can spend money, their tokens for brunch, and it will just be 2 glasses of mimosa pop up in the screen. But if I don't write it down, I'll forget. Can someone write it on Discord, please? Spare it. Because I can't find a pen. Sorry. Tim! It is a good Tim. Yeah, but all joking aside, can someone please write mimosa points or something? Because I think a brunch, right, Ali? A brunch thing would be really fun. With a couple of mimosas popping up. So someone please, because if I forget it, I'll be really upset. Mimosa. Thank you. Get it on Twitter. Get it on Discord though. Fiddles. Link the Discord. Because otherwise I'll forget. I don't watch these back with the text. It's embarrassing listening to yourself in it. So okay. It was a very talky episode, and so people that hate talky episodes don't watch it. But I think it would be missing something if people skipped it. There was a lot about fish. We did good trading for fish, which I still need to work out the profit percentages. But I thought it was good, and the creature, that was another good von Cotswolds. I think there was a good description of his mansion area. I thought it was very pretty with the pool. I think that's well worth listening to. I think that was lovely. And I think there was a lot more character stuff. We did more concern about bugs and things, I think, and
Yes.
yeah. And then back to town with Sarai very, very drunk before going in the evening. And I think it was I thought it was a nice episode. I think every now and again you have to have a very crunchy episode, especially with the Aslan, Paral. I think, apparently I'm very quiet. Hang on. How about now? Am I louder? Paral's a really good character, and I think he's a really good one of yours. And I think it was good stuff. Good, I'm back. Hey, I got
Excellent.
Ali messaged me saying I was really quiet, and it wasn't just for my sexual whispers.
Oh, okay. It was that you were actually quiet. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. So,
Good episode, Ben. Well done. Good GM.
well, thank you. It's always nice to have appreciation. You know that.
No one died, so I'm happy.
Yeah, yeah. So episode 20. On leaving the Commodore's mansion after their brunch experience, the boys from the Baltic Star had noticed a woman following them, but still decided to return briefly to the hotel to sleep off their brunch. And after some vague stab at sobriety, they made their way to the Cascade again, their favourite night spot. While there, they spotted the woman again. And thanks to Stefan's remarkable alacrity, and that was one hell of a roll, if I remember,
Yes.
were able to capture her and bundle her into Cat Aralesti's air raft. Cat having been called to join them and suddenly arriving and realizing they were doing crime. In flight, they threatened, cajoled, and role-played their way to getting some information from their captive. She revealed she was a member of Zodani unit known as Jarek 99. Zoe filled in some details from her experience and suggested that it was possible the woman, Stella Nest by name, wasn't actually interested in them at all, but had some internal Zodani matters on her mind. Unsure if that was true, our heroes threw her out of the air raft at an altitude of several centimetres onto a remote peak and sped off into the night.
If we'd have killed her, Sparrow would never have forgiven us. In fact, I messaged him, I think the next day. I think Sparrow had to go a bit early. And so on Twitter, I posted, I told him, I said, you've gone, but we didn't kill her. Because he had been a very big defender of do not kill this. You can't just go around killing people for no fun. We had a lot of fun, I thought, that episode, though, and you did as well, because we definitely involved Zoe, didn't we? And we definitely involved... It's not... Sparrow, to be honest, right? Before you knew us, and there was another person, another friend of ours, role-played with us at the time. He was a bit more chaotic. And there were probably a few more things that were out there. But Ewan and I were probably less chaotic. So if there'd have been another combination of the three of us that had seen it through to that point, you'd have probably seen a different combo. I think that'd have been fair to say.
Yeah.
And but Ewan did kill a gardener, to be fair.
He did kill a gardener.
He did kill a gardener. So
and to be fair, you have so far overthrown 3 heads of government by murder.
You all seem to love Ewan. You seem to think butter doesn't melt in his mouth, like he's the lovely boy. But he's a gardener murderer. An old gardener. We landed in a planet in 3 different places. I think we split up. So I took the most righteous mayor, I think.
Yep.
The other guy, Trev, took the least righteous, and I think Ewan took the middle righteous, I think. So I was going to talk to the most righteous about doing a deal. One was going to get killed, and one we were going to see how it went. And Ewan killed a gardener, who just basically, as Ewan burst into the gardener was basically approaching him saying, Can I help you? Pew, 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 pew. And that was it. So I don't know why you all love Ewan. Don't love Ewan. He's a cold-hearted murderer. If you don't know him like we do, don't.
Yeah.
It's all a facade.
Yeah. And this was all before the very first of the 3 heads of government they've murdered.
Exactly. And which Ewan has done all of, and Ewan then killed the one on Osin. Ewan is Sparrow's not defending his character. Sparrow's clearly got something for Daddy Agnar. Look, Sparrow. Daddy Agnar was the one that poisoned. To be fair, Papa Crest deserved it, but still.
Yeah, probably. I mean, to be fair, generally speaking, the people you have murdered as a party, they haven't been what you'd call lawful good NPCs that you've killed.
Lawful capitalists.
Absolutely. Many of them may have even been capitalists. Yeah. Yes, it's true. But that was indeed episode 20.
It was good. It was good. Worth watching for conversation and forcing Ben to get involved in discussions about death or leaving someone alive.
Yeah,
And
it's
her
true.
the scene when she jumped off the balcony. I don't want to give too much away. Great work. Unexpected. You expect it now, but still, listen, it was really good. I'm going to take this selfie down
Yeah.
because that's for that episode. There we go.
Yeah, that was a good moment, actually. I like that.
It was good. Good work.
So, episode 21, um, the boys from the Baltic Star had returned from marooning Zodani agent Stella Nest on a remote peak and set about closing out some existing work. Um, they tried to sell their cargo of uncommon ore, but couldn't get the price they wanted, and they met with the Deep Night Corporation. They were interviewed and scanned and learned a little more about the massive mission plan for the giant ship Deep Night Revelation. During the discussions, they agreed to use the Baltic Star as part of the Pathfinder ahead of the Revelation for the first part of its journey. In exchange, the Deep Night Corporation offered to refit the Baltic Star with weapons to make the work a little safer. They contacted March Temple, whose name they'd been given by Paral Karar. She was his aide. Um, he being the insufferable noble Aslan who'd offered his services in smuggling their acquaintance Sever into Earthpark in further of his, Sever's, ongoing pursuit of Falco. Later they heard from Sever that the mission was going ahead that very afternoon, and the party split. Soraya and Stefan going with Zoe to join Sever on the Aslan's yacht to be smuggled into Earthpark, Agnar and Kara going by public transport and the dirigible network to meet them in Earthpark. After meeting with Sever, two of our heroes made their way to the shuttle where they met March Temple and recognized her as none other than Stella Nest, the surprisingly tenacious Zodani commando they had just marooned the day before.
That was a good cliff. I weren't expecting that. That was a good cliffhanger. Uh, People don't know. I keep up because I'm the note taker, I guess, of the PCs, and to help Ewan because we're not in the same room, I've written like an encyclopedia. So half of it's probably not true because I can only go off what Ben has told us to this point. So it's always changing.
Yeah, and I
But
can't be trusted.
you can't be trusted. But I'd kept March Temple and Stella Ness were two different characters in it, which you would love that point. Until that episode when I had to like combine them together because they were in fact the same person. So that was very good work actually. Um, what else happened in that episode? Sorry, I was going to say something and I've forgotten now. Oh, the McGoblins. Yeah, the McGoblins died the week before that. What did we do leading up to that?
Well, before the
Oh, the shuttle.
before you went to the shuttle.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Um, well, you'd actually um, visited the Deep Night Corporation, and you'd gone through the scanning process
Yes.
there and learnt a bit more about the mission. Then you'd agreed a deal with them to act as a pathfinder for the Deep Night Revelation, in exchange for which they refitted the ship for you, or offered to.
Perfect. This is what I wanted to bring up actually, and this is a shout out to Ben because I think it's important. So, for people that are playing Traveller, Mongoose Second Edition Traveller at the minute, there's as things happen with RPGs, there's big releases and big books and box releases, and the very big one at the minute is the Deep Night Revelation. How many books? It's big box, Ben. There's a lot of books approaching it. People are getting their Kickstart things with many books involved. The ones that
I
backed
think
it.
my kit has something like 7 books in it.
Oh, it's huge, right? So it's a massive storyline based around this massive ship that's going off to do massive things, which I've purposefully not looked at because as a PC, you don't look at it. That's the best thing about being, for me, a GM. You get to read the wonderful stories, but I mustn't do it. But enough respect to Ben because, again, not to belittle people because I love the Traveller community on Twitter who are amazing and they're really supportive. And anyone, if you follow me or Ewan, if anyone mentions Traveller, follow them because they're a really good bunch because Traveller's a really small community compared to D&D. But
It really is.
they
It's
proper
a
support each other.
much smaller group.
And they proper support each other. It's really good. But they've all jumped on Deep Night Revelation, which is a big ongoing story, many years of ongoing story. So either they're doing Pirates of Drinax which is another storyline, which is these sort of pirates and privateers fighting in little ships in a system, which is a brilliant story apparently. Or they're doing Deep Night Revelation. Now, Ben, what he did was take the Deep Night Revelation story and say, I'm going to take the stuff, but you're not going to do that. You're going to skirt along the story. This, your captain, your pilot is going to join the crew of the ship that's leading this expedition, and this stuff is happening. And yes, your ship is going to be bouncing along before it, but you're not part of it. And I love it. So it feels like we're surfing in and out. And so I think as a player, to have a GM that's backed himself to dip into the story, but then back himself to tell other stories off that is much lovelier, because I feel that we're going to do a bit of that story, but totally uniquely compared to what's going on. And I'm quite excited for the coming years. I'll be 60 by the time this finishes, and it's time well spent, quite frankly.
It'll finish when it finishes.
It finishes. When I have to bury you, probably.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the campaign you're on does have a defined endpoint, but that isn't necessarily the end of the story, if you know what I mean. It's the resolution of the threads you're currently dealing with, but that doesn't mean it couldn't go on, or you could decide to jump on somewhere else, obviously.
Oh, it's going to be like episode 12 of Red Dwarf, when they're all old and knackered.
Yeah, it's going to be like that. Yeah, because I'm already, old and knackered. But when I play an NPC, they don't have to be, it turns out.
No, exactly.
I mean, Kat Aralesti's 19.
Oh, she's doing good work. I'm glad we got her along, though. Again, I think it happened at this point. You and me had decided one episode in, when I met her in the posh part of town and vlogged her. We're like, we're going to get her on the crew, and we did. You expected us to wait for a lot later.
You were supposed to do that after you found out that Davis was leaving your ship.
So when he told us,
you'd already hired her. It was done before you even learned that he was leaving the ship.
He made his big announcement, and we're like, yeah, I've already got a pilot, and she's 19, and she's well cool. Jog on.
Yeah, but that's the game.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the reality. I set these things up, and they're always dashed to pieces. Yeah. So, episode 22. This was the return to Earthpark. This time aboard the private shuttle owned and, in fact, flown by Paral Karar. The plan was to sneak Sever into Earthpark and let him confront Falco, with whom he has unfinished business of some kind at the time. There was one complication in that March Temple, Karar's assistant, turned out to also be known as Stella Nest, someone they dealt with before, and not in a friendly way. She, however, seemed willing to avoid escalating the situation, and fortunately, they were able to travel together without too much trouble. Unfortunately, Karar likes to fly himself, and they had a crash landing on Earthpark's blissful beach. After some reconnaissance and some sneaking around, Stefan, Soraya, and Sever made their way to the Carnivore Caves, where in the Direwolf building they found Falco. Confronted by enemies, Falco ran, but as he left, he threw a grenade which shattered two of the giant viewing windows looking into the Direwolf enclosure. And combat was at that point joined, with initiative rolled and Falco right there in front of them. The wolves literally at the door. Well, okay, literally at the window. But you know what I mean.
For one of our rare combat start sessions.
Yeah, because 23, the next one, literally did kick off from combat, because 22 was partly a setup for that, wasn't it?
I need to show the wolf nipples. Hang on. Okay.
Oh, of course.
It was an interesting episode. I think I don't know if anyone's ever had the best night out in a nightclub one night, and hugged 17 people, said they were your best friends, danced the night away to the greatest Prodigy song ever, and chugged so much vodka.
That may be my favourite piece of art ever, by the way.
It's beautiful, isn't it? The nipples make it. And then you've ever gone back to a nightclub during the day? this was like returning to Earth Park. Is that the first time I went to Earth Park was the most beautiful place, and then we returned in like the cold night of day on some kind of mission, and it became very, spying on people with binoculars, checking things over. The joy of it became a very mission thing. The only joy that could be had was Soraya just confusing you.
Yeah, yes.
And the wolf nipples. Soraya being confusing and the wolf nipples were the two highlights of a nightclub at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes. Yeah, that was definitely a thing. Um, yes, and weirdly, this was the episode with all the ribs being eaten and things like that as well.
So we split the party before the action even started. Um, Stupidly, like we thought, oh, it'll be cool. So why don't two of our people just go and sit on a beach and kind of fall out because Agnar made a silly comment about Kara's vlogging, and then
Yeah,
we basically played like 30 minutes of Agnar apologising by buying apology ribs. and then them going and sitting on a beach and eating ribs and drinking booze while the others were fighting deadly wolves.
it is true. That is how it went down. Yeah,
And they were totally
yeah.
useless. They didn't know what was going on.
No, I mean, once again, people obliviously wander through the galaxy, accidentally overthrowing governments and murdering people. It happens all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes.
I
So,
I was worried for Stefan. When that went off the air, I was worried for Stefan because even Soraya wasn't in there and it was locked.
yeah,
It was Stefan, it was Seva who was rolling, who's like bad, and it was Zoe, and they
yeah.
were outnumbered and outgunned, and I couldn't help him. It was all on you, and it was worrying, I think.
Yeah, and it turned out. I mean, I was actually quite surprised by how badly both Seva and Zoe were rolling that evening.
Seva couldn't hit a thing.
He
My
really couldn't. No.
goodness. And that carried on to the next episode as well.
Yeah, and it was it. It's one of those moments where you think you've got to play honestly by the dice, but this could go really, really badly.
Yeah. Might not work out.
Yeah, but such is life. That's the game. There has to be some peril, otherwise there's no sense of danger, is there?
Give an extra chance to the PCs, but there's got to be peril.
Yeah, I'm a great believer in that. The PCs always have one get out of jail free roll. Yeah, I really do believe in that. And in the Megalodon encounter,
Soraya made use of that.
so Soraya had to use it. Yeah.
Yeah.
If Soraya had been an NPC, she'd have been bitten in half. But I effectively gave her the opportunity to use whatever it was, a dexterity or something check, in order to haul herself out of the way and make the dash for the fence in the right time.
Exactly.
But you can allow people that sort of get out of jail free, but if that goes wrong, then you've got to live up to the rules and say, well, I'm sorry, you had two goes and they didn't go your way.
Well, it's like a story. It's like a Marvel film, for example. Iron Man, if he gets knocked off the edge of the building and the camera scrolls down, he's clinging onto the edge of the building, whereas a minion is splattered on the floor because it's their story at the end of the day.
Exactly. So they are the heroes, so they get one more chance.
Yeah.
But it has to be only one. If it's two, then you've taken away the threat, because then if it's two, it might well be three or it might be four.
And as Fiddles knows, you need the peril.
You got to have the peril.
Got to have the peril.
You don't have the peril, it's just not the same.
You need the peril. High perils needed.
Yeah, additional peril required.
Additional peril.
Yes. Oh, episode 23, and we really are very close to the present day now, so to speak.
Oh my goodness.
So the Boys from the Baltic Star had this rather abbreviated return trip to the majesty of Earth Park. Falco, someone who was altogether too free with grenades for someone enjoying a theme park, fought to escape the attentions of his old enemy Seva, who'd been delivered to the park by the Aslan Paral Kara and March Temple, also known as Stellar Nest, along with the Travellers. I know it's a bit convoluted, but if you stayed with us this far, it should have been making sense. Um, Cornered by the automated lockdown imposed to protect the park visitors, Falco eventually tried to flee through the direwolf compound, something he came to regret instantly, though not for long. He was eventually dragged off by the carnivores to be devoured. In the aftermath, Black Sun revealed that Falco was no longer an employee, and that was true even before he was dead, you understand. Um, and they asked that the travellers make themselves scarce, as over the next few days there might be awkward questions to answer. Our intrepid heroes were also banned from the park, though park security might not be up to keeping them out in practice. As it turns out, you can sneak people in by just landing a shuttle there. They returned to their luxury hotel for the night, but not before returning March Temple's extremely discreet weapon that they took from her when they encountered her under her other name, Stella Nest, when they kidnapped her from the Cascade. So far, it is unclear whether Carrar knows a great deal about his assistant, or is aware of very much at all, in fact, as he seems to travel blissfully through his cloud of privilege. Um, Excitement is, however, building for the forthcoming buckyball match between Geeka and Dillabrew.
Up the geeks.
Up the Geeks. Sever and his boyfriend have the opportunity to reunite and might take up a place on the cruise of the Deep Night Revelation. And as for the Baltic Star herself, she's being upgraded with some weapons for the forthcoming mission ahead of the voyage of the Revelation. Many people aboard the Buckyball cruise might have useful information, and meanwhile, there's a team to cheer as the plucky geeks take on the power of the Subsector Capitals team.
This episode is notable by the fact that I have to flirt with Ben.
That's true.
And that's all down to Sparrow, who decided that I was taking it far too easily with regards to Soraya's workings with Tim. And therefore, late enough in the evening when I was up for it, suggested that Soraya should push it a little bit further with her favourite Tim. I know you do fiddles, but he's not my type. Do you know what I mean?
I'm so hurt.
I tend to go for the guys that I go for are a little bit different, you know. Yeah, they're more feminine generally.
Yeah, I can understand that. You to be honest, I think it's more one of those things where you probably feel I'm a bit out of your league, so you don't want to push it.
I think that's why I start flirting almost jokingly, because I feel like I'm beneath you, I think, and
I can see that. To be honest, I can see that. Yeah.
I think Fiddles is flirting with you right now. It was funny because Soraya got to let go a bit, but she's awkward because of her background. As people, if people have watched there's an episode we do of our Thursday night show, the After Hours, which is in the collection, and it's about the background of our characters. It's worth watching, actually. If you're going to watch our back stuff, some of the After Hours stuff is interesting for the story. Some is fluff, some is interesting for the characters, and there's one that's about our characters. And for Soraya, her backstory is that her family were military based when her father was killed in action, so she felt the pressure to go into the, I don't know if it's, I think it might have been the Marines even, because her father was in it, so everyone was like supportive of her, but she hated it, and then she sort of got in with Stefan and got a bit revolutionary and helped him nick something, and then she dropped out, and then she went and just became a scout instead because she hated the whole military thing. But it does mean that like 12 years of her life, and people need to remember this, was spent probably 85% of the time in a cockpit of a one-man ship flying on the edge of space, finding new planets and stars that people had never seen before, and spending weeks at a time just with herself and the computer system and a cup of hot drink or alcohol, with her feet up on the computer system watching stars being born. You know, so she's seen the most beautiful things on Earth, and she's learnt to fix engines with gaffer tape, but put her in front of a man she fancies, and she's trash because she hadn't done it. And I think that's what I wanted. I think that's what I wanted to try and put across that night. And I think we managed it between the two of us. Because you played Tim really, really well. I think because Tim's Tim.
It's harder for me to play a Tim because Tims are sort of interchangeable, if you know what I mean.
How dare you? Every Tim has a very specific personality.
I have tried to achieve that, but I'm not convinced it's always been completely successful.
Tim was really sweet and understanding, and I think he played to it really nicely. And because there's a whole "she don't need no man" thing, but she's everyone's lonely at the end of the day, and I think that's what I want to get. Everyone's a bit lonely.
There's a big difference between need and want,
Yeah.
and sometimes people want a relationship or just a connection.
Just a connection, just a little nudge, and I think it was a little sweet bit at the end of the episode, I think.
It was, and it was actually quite fun to play out a bit more off-plot role-playing, if you see what I mean.
Because we don't get to do it that much, especially in like a 2-hour thing or something. Sparrow, you're absolutely
that does
right.
put a bit more pressure in.
You're right. People don't need no man. A lot of people said don't need no woman, but it's just nice to have someone around, right? It's not a bad thing to say. It's actually quite nice to have someone around.
It's a very good thing.
It's not a sign of weakness. No one needs someone. Of course you don't, but and I think that was her moment at that point, which Sparrow pushed, which was quite nice actually. Cause it added
Apparently, you do if you're riding the Madison.
Not Ashley Madison though. That's one for the online. That was a dirty website that.
Oh, of course.
People shared everyone's
marital
details.
affairs.
People shared everyone's
thing,
details. Yeah, people shared everyone's details.
No, sorry, I was talking about the cycling race where you have to like catapult each other forward like a slingshot.
You were gentle, Sparrow, but I think I was in the right place. Let's put it that way. And Tim and Sarai could have done a really good Madison that night.
They could have done.
And it was a slightly connecting episode, but Sarai was also a chaos agent because she just threw smoke and grenades everywhere because I couldn't do nothing.
Yeah, that was a bit weird.
I couldn't do anything. So I throw some grenades.
Yeah.
Throw some smoke.
Oh well. Such is life.
Can't do nothing.
Which I have to say brings us to literally last week's episode.
Oh, look at this! Is like the modern day.
Which was kind of another connecting episode, really, because the Travellers finished off some final tasks on Geeka. Actually, I should say, what you're hearing right now is what I'm going to read out at the beginning of next time's episode, if you see what I mean. Because all of these little descriptions I've been giving are basically what goes at the front of each episode. And this, of course, is the description at the front of next time's episode.
Everyone, remember what he says, and then next Friday, right, when he start typing it in so that Ewan gets really confused. Because he ain't going to watch this because he's having
that will actually really mess with Ewan's head.
So make a note of the first sentence, and then have it like copied and ready to go, and then as soon as Ben starts, everyone post it. That's good stuff. He deserves it. He kills gardeners. He deserves it.
Yeah, but we've all wanted to. Yeah. So, the boys from the Baltic Star finished off some final tasks on Geeka before deciding to return to the Baltic Star. They arrived in time for Richard Davis' leaving party and selected the members of the crew who would accompany them on the Buckyball cruise. They then called for transport and were taken to the Seamstress, the cruise ship that would presumably be their home for the next 2 weeks. They found their rooms, learned how the ship is arranged, and discovered that in addition to the Buckyball pitch, there was a ski slope and the most elaborate swimming pool or possibly hot tub they'd ever encountered. Their suite, provided by Paral Karar, is enormous and perfectly situated to enjoy the sport. They were even offered seats in the Geeka fans section so they could cheer their team on surrounded by the like-minded. On board the Seamstress, they expect to meet some archaeologists who might be able to help them understand why the word carvings seems to come up so very often in their journey. No doubt in the thousands of other passengers aboard, there might be many more adventures to be found as well.
The only carvings I'm interested in are the batsmen carving it away for 4.
In buckyball, you can in fact score a 4, but there is no 6, I'm afraid.
That's okay. I don't score 6s. It's reckless to hit it in the air.
I've always thought 6s were ostentatious.
I
I
think-
don't trust the guy who scores
No,
6s.
it's too fancy. It's for them sloggers that don't play proper sport. I agree. When we let's roll it back. So episode whatever it was, when Ben first brought up the shot with buckyball. So there is some guts behind the body. The episode before that one, episode 13 or whatever it was, episode 15, I'd said to Ben that week, I really want to bring in a sport. I think someone had posted on Twitter about adding more depth to your stories because we started talking more about clothes and stuff as well. I was like, actually, I really want a sport, and I want Soraya to really like a sport. If you've got any sports you could come up with, and Ben knows me well enough to know the sort of sports I'd be interested in, as a cricket. So then he said, he said, I'll think about it, I'll come back to you. And then he's like, I've got buckyball and that. And so we ran with it. And so, of course, you, like any good film or TV series, is you backwardly build it in. Oh, I've always loved that. Series 4 of whatever series it is. Oh, I've always been a fan of the New York Jets. Have you? What? You never talked about it. Oh, yeah. Look in my room. I've always had a poster. The TV series has never shown your room. Oh, yeah, but if you did, the poster was in there. And we did that with it. And I think in that whole building up of me, Ben and you, and working as a team, again, the guts behind it, it is a 2 versus 1 and a 1 versus 2. But also the main key is telling a story that we all enjoy telling and doing. And there's a little bit of one-upmanship, but there's also working together for the greater good. And there are groups that try and overpower each other. And the Crit Crab, that's the guy, isn't it, on YouTube? He tells stories of horrible things that happen in role-playing stories. And some he tells is like there's groups of people that are still competitive role-playing. So anything they say is like a secret message to the GM because they know that other people in their group are trying to kill them. So they might be like, oh, actually, so they might make a secret note like, in my water bottle, I'm going to pour poison. So if someone kills them and then drinks the water, they die. It's like really cutthroat and it's horrific. And I don't think we're big on that. And I think, so when any of us come up with an idea, we start Ben's exactly, yeah, right. Ben's golden moments are cliffhangers, right? And I think that's fair. You're allowed those cliffhangers that make me and you and go, oh no, you didn't moments, right? And those are beautiful moments and you deserve them because that is, the king of storytelling stuff. And me and Ewan are allowed those points where Soraya goes up and talks to those 3 people and you don't have a clue what to say. Because I think that's the fair bish bash of those 2 things.
It's a fair trade.
It's a fair trade. But the overall story thing, if me and Ewan want a good story, you sprinkle those breadcrumbs. And Ben sprinkles breadcrumbs and we whoosh away, but we also gobble the ones he wants because that's the story. And I think role-playing at its best is collaborative storytelling. It's sitting around a campfire and telling a story. It's like my anarchist dream of toiling for the day to help those around me and then sitting around at the fireplace to tell a wonderful story while getting drunk. All my favourite political ideologies involve drinking, to be honest. And I think, and the buckyball came from that. So that came from before episode 15. So episode 14, we started talking about it. And Ben brought it up. And then he was like, I got an idea. And it sort of built from there about the big buckyball tour. And people don't like, we don't expect people to like cricket because it's niche. I play it. I love it. I play it every week. Ben played it when he was young. He played against some decent quality people. He's played in some like quirky matches, so he knows it.
Yeah, many years ago though.
Ewan knows it at least. But my thinking was, it's not. So when Ben said, "Hey, well, we can get this big ship," it wasn't the fact, "Hey, let's do ball by ball buckyball discussion." It was, from my mind, it was like murder on the Orient Express or something. You know, it was like, it's a moving thing where it gives us 2 weeks in game, so up to 10 weeks probably, of storytelling of these intertwining stories within a captive audience, which no doubt Ben has started writing because he knows his stuff. And he started feeding it in through the Aslan and through this and that, and he's sort of dragging us in through that. So he's obviously set it up because he's talked it through, and it's going to click to the carvings are there. There's going to be some buckyball. There's going to be this, that. There's things. He's already talked about, there's slopes, there's hot tubs, there's the buckyball we can watch. There's our seating area we can sit in. There's our rooms. He's got so many worksheets, Sparrow. He's already got about 30 windows open at any one. He always talks about how many windows he's got open at any one time in his feed, right?
And to give you some idea of quite how specific this can get, before designing the ship, the Seamstress, I first had to write all of the rules of how to play buckyball. So there is, in fact, a complete laws of the game of buckyball that exists.
That's so good, right?
So if anyone ever has need of a game that you can play in 0G inside truncated icosahedrons nested over a single focus, then I can tell you I have those rules.
a very useful rule set. Or laws. I hope you call them laws.
They are the laws of buckyball.
The laws of buckyball. But so I think when it came up with the idea, it's like, this is where we're going. We've got 2 weeks in game, which is many sessions if we need it to, or few if we don't. We're giving up our chance of training, because normally when you're traveling, you get to skill up. We're not skilling up. So what we're doing instead is having a wonderful story, and I hope you'll enjoy it. Join us for it and enjoy it, because I think Ben has proven for 24 weeks, for you guys and weeks before that he can put together a good story with little nuggets and little cliffhangers and interesting things and stories coming and going and characters coming and going. And me and Ewan can drunkenly plough through some of it, and then, in a few weeks' time, we could either be dead in a gutter or we could own the Seamstress, having overthrown the capitalist rulers.
I'm a great believer that there is no outcome that should be impossible. Possibly except that one, but no other outcome.
We're just going to take the Seamstress and ride it around the galaxy, giving free buckyball matches to the poor. That's it. All the poor kids can come and play buckyball. Come on. We can kick out all the rich from the seats, so it's going to be free buckyball games for the poor.
Yeah.
You need to
be fair, there are probably cheaper venues to play buckyball.
You need to be careful. That's the way we're going. You need to make sure you've got a backup in case we try that.
Yeah, don't worry.
Us.
I've known you guys a while now. This is not episode 1. No. This is episode 24. I've known you guys a while. Right. So that essentially brings us to the end of the sort of catch up. So we're going to probably stick around for a little bit more just to keep chatting while people are online. But as far as we go, that is the current state of play.
You need to do a Rose's Cat. Sparrow's just redeemed one, and I left it on for the night.
Well, that's fair enough. It's a Friday. Rose's Cats happen on Fridays. And Sparrow has promised not to redeem more than two a week.
Very grumpy about it though. Really, really, really eggy about it. Like, I don't want to big up how eggy they're about it, but it's really eggy about it.
Like, well, that seems really harsh. Eggy. Okay, so
really, really eggy.
Meanwhile, aboard the Baltic Star, There appeared to be a gathering of all of the crew, so naturally Rose's cat, Caboodle, was included. The view from the large viewing windows in the lounge had changed somewhat. Now all that could be seen in any direction was the Imperial Naval Base and its huge and complex machinery. This was not of interest to the kitten. The entire crew seemed to be dining together, with not a single person on the bridge. Drinks were poured, and the atmosphere was relaxed and convivial. This, too, was not of interest to the kitten. The man who spent most of the time on the bridge seemed to be the centre of attention, receiving an unusual amount of affection, and periodically there were rounds of applause or simultaneous laughter. This was of great interest to the kitten. Caboodle felt very deeply that if there was affection to be displayed, then it should be directed towards the cat. Rubbing against the legs of people in vac suits was largely pointless, as they didn't seem to notice. A new plan was needed. A few seconds later, Caboodle jumped onto the lap of the rival attention seeker, keen to do battle with her implacable enemy. The man actually reacted by stroking the kitten gently and leaning over to speak directly to her. He then raised his glass, as did everyone else. Distracted by the stroking, Caboodle forgot to sink her teeth into the man. An hour later, stalking her enemy, Caboodle followed the same man as he walked to the airlock. He gave her a last scratch behind the ear before he closed the door. Something about the man's demeanour made Caboodle think he was leaving for good. Clearly, somehow, the kitten had defeated her foe and driven him from the ship. As the kitten set off to patrol her domain, she let out a soft meow to warn potential future enemies that she wouldn't hesitate to vanquish them as well. There you go.
And that is Richard Davis leaving the ship. And I think the stories for Caboodle are going to be important going forward, because people that listened last week, I've gone into my Thursday night voice again. We had a big discussion about who would join us on the Seamstress, and Rose, Cara wanted Rose, I think. They're quite, there feels to be like a Cara, Rose, Zoe triumvirate. And so Zoe agreed to go, but what we did was we dumped Caboodle in the hands of Kronsorama, who quite happily took it. But it was a beautiful moment for those that are listening, because Kron is a very gruff engineer, and Kronsorama has taken Caboodle. So while like a dozen of us go over to the Seamstress, the engineers are still on the ship. There's not much else, right? It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks, though, while everything's getting built on the ship. So I think it's going to be interesting times for Caboodle, Ben.
I think it will be. Yeah. Yeah. And, we will learn more in forthcoming episodes, of course.
I hope so. It's like a thread that drags you back to reality, if that makes sense, to home.
And, it's supposed to be a gentle diversion. There are very few murders in the Rose's cat stories.
Very, very few. Spoiler.
Very few murders.
Caboodle is good, right? It's lovely. It's a lovely ending, especially when it's done at the end of a session or something, and it's a beautiful little finish. Is that all our episodes, Ben?
Sorry?
Is that all our episodes?
Yeah, that's right up to the present day.
Oh, dear. Wow, there we go.
And all but one of the episodes of Rose's Cat I've written as well, it has to be said.
Oh, my goodness.
There's only one in my back pocket at the moment.
Stop trying to push people to do another one. There's always next week.
I'm concerned that if I don't make them use it on Rose's Cat, they'll use it on Ben's night off.
It's not, yeah, but it's not your night off for a little while, though. I don't know
That's
what...
true.
Well, I'm at a wedding tomorrow night, so and I'm on the last train home, so I have no idea whether I will be capable for some Alien. And then Sunday night, I've got no idea because I'm going away on holiday Monday morning. So I don't know. It may not. If I am, I'll put Ben's night off on there because Ben normally turns up and you can make him drink his Horlicks or whatever he's drinking while he's watching me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Horlicks is definitely what I go for.
Horlicks is always what you drink on a Sunday night. I know you.
Yeah.
And then next week, I'm away for Thursday. Have you and Ewan discussed whether you could do anything on Thursday yet? Is he back yet? Do you know?
No, I don't know what the details will be. If Ewan is not around on Thursday, I have a thing I'm prepared to try. And I have no actual confidence it will work, but we'll give it a hell of a try if it turns out that that's what we're doing.
Is it stripping? It sounds like stripping.
No, people, oddly enough, pay me to put clothes on, never to take them off. Little spoiler here. In my sort of behind the screens things, I've been talking over the last couple of episodes about the Usborne books.
Yes.
And I have got the listing for the text adventure that was in the Write Your Own Adventures book. And I have laboriously downloaded it from the internet, and I'm prepared to basically run it through as a game live on stream. And hopefully, if we get anyone watching, they can actually tell me where to go and what to do as I play it, because it is fundamentally a very, very simple game that is typed out of a book listing for a BBC Micro.
This is
so.
I like this. So you're looking at an interactive Thursday stream.
This is my theory, that it might be fun, and if it turns out it isn't, then it isn't, and we've wasted a bit of time. But what the hell? We'll give it a shot.
This sounds fun. I might blow my family off and tune in on a Thursday night in my caravan.
So if it turns out that Ewan isn't around, well, actually, even if he is, we may find a way to do it together. Who knows?
Oh, that's a really nice Thursday. That's a really good call. Sparrow and Fiddles love it already. They're in. Everyone else is. They're just not as quick to type, and it's just assumed that everyone else agrees.
Yeah, sure. But no, I mean, I think it will be desperately silly because obviously it's a text adventure written in BASIC for the BBC Micro. However, it will also be brilliant because it's a text adventure written in BASIC for the BBC Micro.
Go east, wear hat.
Exactly.
It's my life, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I like it. Does that mean? But Friday we've got Baltic Stars back, right? Because Ben's back, and I get home on Friday, and it's already been agreed that I can stream Friday evening.
Yeah. As far as I'm aware, we're all up for Friday. Yes. Cool. As you say, the only question is whether Thursday will be just me or me and Ewan. And believe me, I have no particular confidence that I can beat this tiny, easy game.
Well, that's why you need the rest of them. The rest of our crew will help you out. Listen to them; they've got the brains. You've got the typey fingers. They've got the brains.
I can type "Go West" or whatever, but I don't know how to do that. Yes.
Now I've got that song in my head. Thanks, man. You could have.
I'm
you could
sorry.
have said anything else.
That is a fate worse than death.
It's a great song. So Thursday. So let's run through the week. Tomorrow night, if I'm back early enough and I'm not really, really drunk, we will do an Alien Isolation at midnight or just after. We'll see how that goes though, because I am on the last train. Sunday night, I've got cricket, so I won't be really, really drunk, but I'll be really, really achy with the need to get up in the morning. But I think Sunday night's more likely. Mm-hmm. Let's hide in some lockers on Sunday. I like the idea of hiding in lockers on Sunday.
Yeah, so do I. I'm enjoying your Alien Isolation playthrough. I think it's fun because I think the game is quite engrossing, but it's also fun watching you desperately panic and run and scream.
Because I'm a coward. Because there's so many clips coming out of it through my cowardice. Last week when I ran into the alien, I did nearly have a heart attack. That was very frightening.
Yeah.
And more than one people have actually told me that was quite frightening. Ali's told me that was quite frightening. I think Fiddles had a moment as well. It was a moment. Um, yeah, the Joe murder. He deserved it, though. That was a beautiful moment. And now I've got the stun baton as well. So the Joes are my bitches now. It's just the aliens I'm worried about.
You see, the Joes don't actually scare me all that much because they look like, I don't know, very, very badly made Cybermen. Um, it's the alien for me. That's the scary thing.
You know who the Joe looks like? He looks like Evan. He looks like Evan watching you sleep.
Stop saying things like that. It's
On the neck of
creepy.
the last face you see as you're put into deep sleep, and the first face you see when you've woken up. But yet, when you look down, your pants are in a different
Yeah,
position.
that's really creepy.
It's
Yeah,
true.
people.
It's true, Ben.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
scared.
Things that don't actually need to blink watching you sleep is creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you know how I feel with all my fear of the alien. Well, I tell you what, let's do that Sunday night. There's no reason not to. My house will be quiet, so let's definitely do Sunday, maybe Saturday. Ben's definitely going to do Text Adventure Thursday. Might be with you and might be alone. You guys
Sure.
have to tell him what he's going to do, though. That's going to be a hell of a night. I'm going to watch that on VOD, man, because I think that sounds really bants. I love that. Look, half the
I
room
have
doing all
no
three.
idea what it'll be like, but what the hell, we'll try.
And then Friday, it's Boys from the Baltic Star, episode 25 on the seamstress. Let's murder on the Orient Express. #cricket / snowboarding that adventure up, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah. Right. Should we go to Discord? Fiddles, post
Yeah.
Discord. Post it. Thank you, everyone that's joined us for the evening. We really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you've realised that Ben is brilliant, quite frankly, because he's a genius in his own house, and
I'm the cleverest man in this room, I tell you.
he really is, and not just his room, but the chat room.
No, I would only say this room, literally this room, which looks awfully empty from where I'm sitting, but nonetheless, this room.
It's in someone's. Well, your room's in someone's dream. That's the whole point about your room. Uh, um, but yeah, thank you, and I hope that watching us tonight may spur you on to following us next week. And if you do, then maybe say hello. Not even you, and he kills gardeners. Sparrow, stop trying to like equalise things just for the sake of equalising it. There's only one gardener murderer, and he's not here tonight.
I actually have a soft spot for you, and mostly because he'll kill me if I don't.
You're
Um,
scared. Yeah, he looks like butter won't melt in his mouth. But oh,
yeah, yeah, like blood won't drip off his rapier.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly like that.
He is very furry. He probably is a
That's
fur.
true as well.
He probably is a furry in his spare time. Yes, but I've only killed one Joe. Many Joes have killed me. How many?
Yeah, but you did attack like 11 crew members with a hammer.
Yeah, but how many goes did that take?
Well,
More.
the number of blows it takes to kill the crew member is not actually a positive thing when talking about being a good guy.
They tried to kill me. I was just an innocent woman, and they're trying to kill me, man. Yeah, one grabbed my leg and I tonked it as well, and then one I battered. The EMP thing was amazing. Watch that
I,
clip if
I,
one.
I don't think you get to play the innocent, helpless woman card when you're literally luring people around a corner to beat them to death with a hammer.
I'm Ellen Ripley's daughter. I can do what I want.
That's true. And I would not disagree with that under any circumstances ever. Because like you, I suspect, I fell in love with that movie and it's wonderful.
Exactly. Oh, I need to watch that now. I don't know if I'll join Discord. I might just watch Alien. Might do it both at the same
I'm
time.
actually looking at my box set of the Alien movies right now and
Right,
thinking,
I'm
you know
considering
what?
it, right? Just considering it. Yeah, group Alien watch. Over to Discord for a group Alien watch. Thank you, everyone. On behalf of Ewan, who's probably away killing gardeners in Sussex or something,
Mhm.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Well done, Ben. Thank you, Ben.
Oh, thank you.
No, thank
It
you.
has been a treat, and hopefully it was entertaining enough while we caught you up and reminded you, if you've been following us for a while, of the fun and happiness. Um, and we will on this coming Friday resume normal progress with episode 25.
Episode 25. The quarter century. Good cricket number, that. Right. Toodaloo. Uh, Alien sometime at the weekend. Follow us for that. Ben's Text Adventures from the 1950s on Thursday. Follow that. And good old role playing on Fridays. Follow that. As Ringo Starr would say, peace and love, and see you on Discord. Goodbye, Ben.
Good night, sir.
It's not good night because I'm going
Good
to talk.
night, all.
I'm going to talk to you now on Discord, but we'll just do
Yeah,
it. We'll just do it
I'll
for the others, that don't know.
I need to do some altitude training, but I'll be back in a few minutes on Discord. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, goodbye.